Greetings everyone and welcome to Chapter 8. This week we're going to be looking at attitudes and judgment. Now the book goes into some depth and with attitudes and the aspects of judgment and persuasion, but I just want to hit on some key points that the book does address, but I'd like to just pay a little bit more attention to them. First off, what are attitudes? Basically, attitudes are derived from specific beliefs, emotions, past behaviors that are associated with a person, place, a situation, or a product. And there's three components to an attitude. The first one is affect. Affect is how does a target object make you feel? The second one is behavioral. How do you respond to a target object? And the third component is cognitive. In other words, what are your perceptions about a target object? And these are broken down to essentially two dimensions. First, there's direction. There's positive, negative, and neutral attitudes. And extremity, that's the strength of an attitude. We all develop opinions, attitudes about just about everything in life. And most of the time we associate that with a previous experience. Something triggers a memory in us of perhaps a person that we met a long time ago, or maybe not so long time ago, that we formed an opinion about, or a product that we've had experiences with, good or bad, and or even a situation, a place. You may have visited a place and all of a sudden that you were presented with visiting perhaps a similar place, and that triggers an emotional response, a cognitive response within you that you form an attitude about visiting a new place. You may not recognize it at the time because the excitement of something new comes in, but there may be a cognitive aspect to that shows up, and it may eventually, when you start thinking about visiting a new place or you're meeting a new person, a former situation experience may influence your attitude about that specific target object. Now, let's take a look at some theories about attitudes and judgment. Okay, the first one is the inclusion-exclusion model. Now, this deals with context and assimilation. Forming a judgment requires essentially two components, a target and a reference point. The target is compared to a reference target, just like I mentioned just in the past slide, that there's something that you're comparing a product or a situation or a person to something that you've experienced in the past. Now, whether that is a positive or a negative experience differs from experience to experience. Now, the expectancy value model. This is a form of statistics and probability. And this is forming judgments based on the likelihood of something occurring. And you're making a choice based on the strength of an attitude derived from evaluating an expected value of a target object. In other words, your expectancy, the model of expectancy. What do you expect from this product? Are you forming an attitude based on some high expectancy? Or is your view of a product, the possible use of a product, being judged based upon a previous experience with the product that's similar? And you're all of a sudden you've just got, without even knowing what the product is or having use of it, you've already determined that it's you're not so sure about it. That's a value judgment. Then there's theory of reasoned action. This states that the number of favorable beliefs increase, the number of favorable attitudes increases, and vice versa. In other words, the more positive you feel about something, the greater that you're going to believe that the product is worthwhile, it has some value to you, and vice versa. Your attitudes influence beliefs. You may have a bad attitude about an individual, or an individual that represents something in the past, or a product that represents something negative in the past. And when you meet a similar individual, or an individual from the same situation, or a product that's similar to a product that you did not really have all that good of an experience with, your reason may cloud your judgment about making an honest assessment about a current target object. Again, it's reasoned action, and sometimes our reasoning is not everything it should be. Our previous experiences can influence our ability to do a concrete and open evaluation of something that is new to you. Now let's move on to another 3 different theories. Okay, information integration theory. This states that beliefs are averaged together, unlike the theory of reasoned action, where the beliefs are added together. Now, the theory of reasoned action, your belief is they're compounded. One belief adds to the other, and adds to the other, and another adds to it, and so forth. However, with information integration theory, all your beliefs about a certain situation are averaged into one overall belief. If you've taken a stat course, you know that average is equal to the mean, and that is equal to a summation of all individual target objects. You sum them together and you divide by the total number. Well, the information integration theory doesn't go that far into the mathematics of it, but it does help explain that we often just, instead of things adding up, although we like to say they add up, or our feelings are adding up and to give us some type of an overall impression about something, many times it's just we average everything together and we come out with an overall belief system about a target object. Now that may be splitting hairs. I mean, getting into the weeds of stat where we really are thinking about beliefs and so forth. But I just want to make you aware of that with these sort of theories. Psychology loves to delve into the specifics and pull things apart and try to explain them through stat analysis and so forth. This is a good information. This is a good example, I should say, of such a psychological approach. Then the elaboration likelihood model. Now this states that consumers can form an opinion by either 2 routes. One is a central route, whereby consumers are highly involved in thinking about a marketing claim, or a peripheral route. This is where consumers do not put a great deal of time into evaluating a product, preferring to form an opinion based on superficial information. The peripheral route is really explained by, let me give you an example. Well, you're watching TV and on comes a commercial where your favorite actor is promoting a product. Now, you may not know much about the product, but you like that actor. You saw his movies, you think he's great in them, he deserves an Academy Award and all this. And he's promoting, let's, for example, a reverse mortgage. And, if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. And you really haven't looked into the reverse mortgage company. You haven't really examined what a reverse mortgage is and if it will benefit you or possibly a family member. And you just call up the phone number on the bottom of the screen that the actor is promoting, and all of a sudden you're buying into it. Okay, you've taken a peripheral route of evaluating a product. The central route is always the most logical one to go to. We don't always use it, as I said, but it's real. You need to evaluate something based on concrete information and make a value judgment based on examining all the possible information and pros and cons to a product. So again, 2 ways that elaboration can work with product evaluation. Then a heuristic systematic model. This states that consumers often overlook significant information in favor of quickly developing an attitude rather than taking the time to establish an accurate one. This goes with the elaboration likelihood model. We like to do things quick. We like to get things done without really putting a lot of effort into slugging through the weeds of finding out all the specifics of things. So this model is tied in with the elaboration likelihood model with the peripheral route. Now I have for an example here an ad that states 9 out of 10 dentists recommend this toothpaste is often enough to develop an attitude regarding a toothpaste product. Well, that's all well and good, but who are these 9 out of 10 dentists? How many dentists were in the population pool that they sampled? Did they indeed only survey 10 dentists and 9 of them said it's great? If they had sampled 1,000 or 1,500 dentists, 80% of them would have said the toothpaste is really not all that good. So you got to be careful when you see things like this. Stats can really promote something, or they can influence you in a negative way. Without investigating really what is going on out there, you're opening yourself up to believing things that may be true on a surface level, but underneath, when you get all the weeds out of the way and you investigate products, you'll find that maybe things aren't as really good as you are made to, or hope that you will be made to believe. Again, the elaboration and the heuristic systematic model, they play into that with consumers. Okay, now let's take a look at persuasion and motivation. Okay, now what is persuasion? Persuasion is an active attempt by one person to change another's attitudes, beliefs, or emotions about a target object. And that our target can be a person, a concept, etc., etc., etc. Motivation is the drive that gives purpose and direction to a behavior. It's a person's willingness to exert physical or mental effort to accomplish a goal. Now, there's two types of motivation. One is directional motivation. Directional describes a preference for information that supports a consumer's conclusion. In other words, you've already preconceived a notion about something. You've decided that something is either good for you or not so good for you, and you want to find information that supports that opinion. So you're motivated to find outside resources that support your position. Again, that's directional motivation. You want to obtain that information. You are directed towards obtaining that information. Non-directional motivation encourages a balanced information processing, where all relevant information about a target is used to make a judgment. Again, non-directional. You're taking it from different sources, as much information as possible, to formulate a judgment about a product, and I hate to say, or a person, but we all do it. We all, if you don't like saying a judgment about a person, or make an educated evaluation about an individual. So that being said, each of these concepts influences how carefully an individual considers a product or a person, situation, etc., to arrive at a judgment. Now let's take a look at some resistance against persuasion. Okay, now there's some avoidance factors that can influence the power of persuasion. First is exposure control. This is avoiding an unwanted message by disengaging from the situation, such as you leave a room, you change the channel, and you're not reading an advertisement. You're just not allowing yourself to be taken in from being persuaded through a person or so forth. You walk away. You ignore a person. You read in the book. You put the book down and say, I'm done with that. I don't want to look any further at that, or change the TV channel. Or counter-arguing. This is when you're generating reasons why a message cannot be valid. There's not really too much you can say about that. You find ways to negate an argument, or negate somebody trying to persuade you that what they're saying is true. We're reactants. This involves doing the opposite of what is attempting to be persuaded. Now, this is often the response for going against a perceived threat or losing freedom of choice. You see this when, I guess a good example would be salespeople would come up and say, you can't do without this product. If you ignore this product or this situation, you're being very ignorant. You're being stupid if you don't follow this line of thinking, or if you don't use this product, or if you don't do this or don't do that. Well, right away, when I'm hit with sort of thing like that, I react to it. And I don't really say it's a perceived threat, but I really try to react, and then I use maybe a counter argument. And if I can't come out with a good counter argument, then basically, I walk. Then there's correction. When an individual believes that their judgments have been contaminated by unwanted messages, the person will often adjust their beliefs to remove the contamination bias. In other words, you're set with an opinion. You know what you believe. You've found the information. You're set. And, well, somebody comes along and presents you with a counter argument that, makes you think twice about your position. Again, this creates a mindset of, what if I'm wrong? What if this other guy is right? And, okay, well, I'm going to rethink this and correct it. And maybe I wasn't persuaded really from him, but I was persuaded, or her, I was persuaded maybe to look more carefully into my evaluation of a situation and remove any bias on my part towards a product. Admittedly, it can be a little muddy with this. Psychology is not a clear-cut type of situation. You're going to find many of these things overlap and play into each other. But at least I'm trying to give you some kind of a breakdown of how they differ and how they interact. So now let's look at the persuasion knowledge model. Okay, the persuasion knowledge model, that suggests that individuals will resist a persuasion attempt if they believe that the marketer or persuader has ulterior motives. I think we can all agree that we walk into car dealerships purchasing a car, and I think that's one of the toughest situations I can find myself in. I feel like I'm in with a bunch of vultures. I'm a piece of meat, and here they all come at me. So this is especially evident in the hard sell practices, where a marketer attempts to convince a consumer that something the consumer must believe, rather than allowing the consumer to make a judgment based on their own product evaluation. This ties into our previous card with the models of persuasion. So that basically sums it up with the persuasion knowledge model. You've all experienced that. Like I said, car dealerships, going in there and horrible. And not so much as going into stores, or my favorite is going into Best Buy and just looking around the computers, and you can feel the salespeople. They're waiting just to jump and sell you the newest computer, the newest gadget, the newest TV, and explain why you need this. It's necessary. But anyway, that does it for this week. Again, if you have any questions or concerns about the information, feel free to contact me. I'm here for you. And as I said before, if I don't know what's going on with your studies, I can't help you, and that's really what I'm here for. So until next week, God bless, take care, and I will see you then. Bye-bye.